Hey there, and welcome to another ESO build guide. I'm Dying Legacy, and this is the updated Nova build for the Lost Depths patch, a Magicka Templar for solo content. Templars as a class come with great healing and AoE DPS skills, and this build takes complete advantage of that. This is a quick build guide. We'll be going over the race, attributes, Munderstones, food, potions, gear, skills, passives, and champion point startables. The info will be minimal, so I'll only be going over what's necessary. However, do feel free to comment below if you have any suggestions or if there's anything I could do better. And why not subscribe to keep up to date with the channel? With the intro covered, let's go over the Nova build. Starting with the race, it doesn't really matter what you use, play how you like. It's your adventure and your story after all, but if you're looking for suggestions, I would recommend either the Breton if you're looking for more sustain, the Khajiit for extra critical damage, or a High Elf for extra spell damage. And for the attributes, we're putting 64 points into Magicka, and for our Munderstone, when we're doing solo content, we're taking the Lover Munderstone for extra spell and physical penetration. When doing content as part of a group, we'll be taking the Thief Munderstone for extra critical rating. For our food, we are taking the Clockwork Citrus Fillet to increase our health recovery, max Magicka, and Magicka recovery. You can pick these up at a guild vendor, or you could make it yourself at a cooking station if you have the recipe. This can be rather expensive to get your hands on though, in which case the cheaper option is the Witch Mother's Potent Brew. The stats are slightly lower and it doesn't give health recovery, but it's a very small difference and it doesn't matter which one you use. For our potions, we are using Essence of Spell Power, which grants us Major Sorcery, Major Prophecy, Major Intellect, and it restores some Magicka immediately. We'll be using these for those longer and tougher fights. We can grab these at a guild vendor, or we can also make them ourselves at an alchemy station. If you haven't gotten any on you at the time, you can always pop an Essence of Magicka instead. They will give us Major Intellect and restore some Magicka immediately. They might not be as useful as spell power potions, but they are better than nothing and they do drop from almost every enemy in the game, so pots for days. Moving on to the gear now, we have the option to use a Maelstrom Inferno Staff and Payloader Ring on this build. They aren't necessary by any means and we have options in their stead, which we'll go over first. We are using 6 light armor pieces on this build with 1 medium, all with Divine's traits and a Magicka enchant, and for the jewellery we're using the Bloodthirsty trait and spell damage enchants. For our weapons, we are using dual daggers on our front bar. For our main hand, we are going with the Nirnhone trait and a fire enchant. And for our offhand dagger, we are going with the charge trait and an absorb Magicka enchant. For our back bar, we are taking another Inferno staff with the infused trait and a weapon damage enchant. Moving on to the sets themselves, starting with the body pieces, which are the chest, waist, hands, legs and feet. Our first choice is a trial set, and it's the Whirl of Depths set. This set is gotten from Dreadsail Reef, and on veteran difficulty you can get a perfected version, which adds extra critical chance to the set. It's a minor increase compared to the unperfect version, so it doesn't matter which version you use. The set itself gives us weapon and spell damage, minor slayer at all times, and our light attacks add a damage over time effect to our target that deals frost damage over 8 seconds, and when the effect ends, a whirlpool is created under the target doing frost damage for a further 6 seconds. If you haven't stepped into a trial or want to use something else, you can use the Xian's Redress set, which is found in the Lair of Marsalok DLC. This set adds Magicka recovery, weapon and spell damage, and max Magicka. Your light attacks apply the touch of Zen to an enemy for 20 seconds, causing them to take 1% more damage for each damage over time effect you've placed on them, up to 5%. You can also use the Mother of Sorrow set, which is gotten from overland content into Shan, from world bosses, delves, public dungeons, or chests. You can also buy it from a guild vendor. This set adds lots of critical chance and max Magicka. For our weapons and jewellery, we are going with the Deadly Strike set. This is a PvP set. You can find the vendor in Bruma, in Cyrodiil, or you can pick it up from a guild vendor. The Deadly Strike set gives us weapon damage, spell damage, and critical chance. And it also increases the damage our damage over time and channel abilities do by 15%. For our monster sets, for our helm and shoulder slots, we can use the Iceheart set. The helm can be gotten from Direfrost Keep on Veteran and the shoulders from the Undaunted vendors. This set adds critical chance, and when we deal critical damage, we have a chance to gain a damage shield that also deals frost damage to nearby enemies. Another good choice is the Slimecraw set from Wayrest Sewers 1. Again, the helm from Veteran difficulty and the shoulder from an Undaunted vendor. Slimecraw adds critical chance and gives us minor berserk at all times. Now for the Ring of the Pale Order, which is gotten from the Antiquity system. When using this, we will heal for 20% of all the damage we do. We can't be healed by anyone but ourselves, and the healing we do does decrease when we're in groups. The ring will take up a ring slot obviously, so we'll need to wear our jewellery set on either our shoulder or helm. Slot doesn't matter. We will lose our 2-set bonus from our monster set, but the Pale Order ring makes up for it. You can stick with Slimecraw for the 1-piece bonus, or you could also use the Magma Incarnate set. The head is found in the Dreadseller DLC dungeon on Veteran, and the shoulder from an Undaunted vendor. The The Magma Incarnate's 1-set bonus will give us Magicka and Stamina recovery. Lastly is the Maelstrom Inferno Staff, which is gotten from the Maelstrom Arena, and we'll be using this on our Backbar. There's a perfected version from Veteran difficulty which adds extra offensive penetration. Doesn't matter which version we use, as we're more interested in the base effect, which is when enemies stand in our wall of elements, they take extra damage from our light and heavy attacks. Well, that covers the gear, and now it's time for the skills. Starting with the front bar, first skill up is Toppling Charge, morphed from Focus Charge. This is found in the Aegis Spear skill line. You'll charge an enemy, dealing magic damage and stunning them for 3 seconds. Setting them off balance and also interrupts casting. Next up is Puncturing Sweep, morphed from Puncturing Strikes. This is found in the Aegis Spear skill line. You'll strike enemies in front of you 3 times, dealing magic damage to the closest enemy and slightly lower damage to all other enemies around you. You'll also heal for a percentage of the damage done. We are also taking Purifying Light, morphed from Backlash, found in the Dawn's Wrath skill line. This deals magic damage immediately and marks enemies for 6 seconds. When the duration ends, it'll do more magic damage based on the amount of damage you've dealt over the 6 seconds, up to 200%. This will also heal you over 10 seconds. We're also using Consuming Trap, more from Soul Trap and found in the Soul skill line. This deals magic damage for 20 seconds, and if the affected enemy dies, it will fill an empty soul gem and restore Magicka, stamina and health to you. We are also using Radiant Ward, morphed from Sun Shield and found in the Aegis Spear skill line. This gives us a damage shield, and enemies nearby will take magic damage when you activate the shield, and each enemy hit increases the shield's strength. And finally, for the ultimate on our front bar, we are using Ice Comet, morphed from Meteor and found in the Mage's Guild skill line. This hits enemies in an area, dealing frost damage, knocking them down and reducing their movement speed. After the impact, enemies in the target area take frost damage for 13 seconds. That covers our front bar, so naturally next up is the back bar, starting with Unstable Wall of Fire, morphed from Wall of Elements and found in the Destruction Staff skill line. This will create a line of fire in front of you for 10 seconds, dealing flame damage to enemies standing in it. When the skill ends, the wall of fire explodes, dealing more flame damage. If you are using the Maelstrom Staff, your light and heavy attacks will do more damage to the enemy standing in this. Blazing Spears is up next, morphed from Sphere Shards and found in the Aegis Spear skill line. This will deal magic damage in a target area and also deal Magicka damage every second for 10 seconds. Allies near the spear can activate the Blessed Shard synergy, restoring Magicka or stamina, whichever is higher. We are also using Razor Caltrops, morphed from Caltrops and found in the Assault skill line. This will create an AoE that does physical damage to targets standing inside and slowing their movement speed. Enemies that take damage this way have Major Breach applied to them. Our next skill is Solar Barrage, morphed from Solar Flare and found in the Dawn's Wrath skill line. You'll blast enemies around, dealing magic damage every 2 seconds for 22 seconds. While the ability is active, you'll gain in power. Our next skill is Channel Focus, morphed from Rune Focus and found in the Restoring Light skill line. This will put a rune on the ground and you'll gain Major Resolve for 25 seconds, and you'll also recover Magicka for 25 seconds. While standing in the rune will heal you every second. And finally, for the ultimate on our back bar, we're using Crescent Sweep, more from Radial Sweep, which is found in the Aegis Spear skill line. You'll deal Magicka damage to enemies nearby you and additional Magicka damage for 6 seconds. Enemies in your path will be hit for 60% more damage. That covers the skill, so let's quickly go over the passives, starting with our class passives. First up is the Aegis Spear skill line. We want everything in here, so we'll be taking Piercing Spear, Spear Wall, Burning Light and Balanced Warrior. In the Dawn's Wrath skill line, we want Enduring Rays, Prism, Illuminate and Restoring Spirits. And in the Restoring Light skill line, we want Mending, Sacred Ground, Lightweaver and Master Ritualist. We are using Dual Daggers, so we'll take everything in the Dual Wield skill line. These are Slaughter, Dual Wield Expert, Control Fury, Ruffian and Twin Blade and Blunt. We are using Destruction Staff, so we'll take everything in the Destruction Staff skill line. These are Trifocus, Penetrating Magic, Elemental Force and Ancient Knowledge and Destruction Expert. We are wearing light armor on this build, so we'll take everything in the light armor skill line too, which are Grace, Evocation, Spell Warding, Prodigy and Concentration. We are also wearing medium armor, so we'll also be taking Windwalker, Improved Sneak, Agility and Athletics. Also from the Mage's Guild, we want Mage Adept, Everlasting Magic, Magicka Controller and the Might of the Guild. And next up is the Undaunted passives. In here we'll be taking Undaunted Command and Undaunted Metal. This next one is optional and can be found in the Assault skill line. And it is Continuous Attack. We only need 1 point in this to get Major Gallop. We get nothing extra for adding a second point. Moving on to the racial passives, these are specific to your race. You will need to grab everything and you are going to have a read over them just so you understand the benefits and the advantages you have, because all races have different racial passives. And lastly, one more optional passive, which I would class as necessary, and its medicinal use, which is found in the alchemy skill line. This causes our potions to last much longer and make potions outlast their cooldown, so you can always have a potion active. And that covers all the passives on the build, so now we're going to move on to the champion point Startables, starting with the warfare tree. In here, you're going to want to take Wrathful Strikes for extra weapon and spell damage. You're going to want Fighting Finesse for extra critical damage and critical healing. You'll want Deadly Aim to increase our damage done with single target attacks. And you'll also want to take Thaumaturge to increase our damage done with damage over time effects. In the fitness skill line now, you're going to want to take Bonus Vitality to increase your max health, Fortified for extra armor, Rejuvenation for extra sustain, and you're also going to want to take Siphoning Spells for even more sustain after you kill an enemy. Into the craft skill line now, it doesn't really matter what you take in here because everything's very subjective to what you want to do. Doesn't really have any, use when it comes to doing content as a whole. So choose what you want, but for solo content, I do like to go with Treasure Hunter just to increase the quality of items I find in the chest. Rationeer to increase the duration of my foods. I also like to take Liquid Efficiency, just so when I use a potion, there is a slight chance that I don't actually consume it, and I get to have extra over time. And lastly, I also like to take Steed's Blessing, just to increase the out-of-combat movement speed by 0.4% per stage. You'll end up getting 20% movement speed, which is going to really help you get around the map quicker. But yeah, otherwise, that's everything for the champion point Startables, and everything for the Nova build. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope it was somewhat useful to you, or helped you out with your own builds even. And if it did, why not like and subscribe? If you have any thoughts, suggestions, or just want to have a chat, why not comment below? You can also come chat to me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/dyinglegacy. We play a lot of MMOs over there, like Final Fantasy XIV, Guild Wars 2, Lost Ark, and ESO, just to name a few. So why not pop in and have a chat with me? Otherwise, thanks again guys, you've been fantastic, I've been Dying Legacy, and until next time, stay awesome.